Day 7 of our incredible 15-day Egypt tour was absolutely unforgettable. We said goodbye to the beaches of Hurghada and traveled to Luxor, the ancient city of Thebes, packed with history. Walking through that great hypostyle hall, surrounded by those enormous columns covered in hieroglyphs, felt like stepping into another world. The scale is mind-blowing. Then, as night fell, we headed to Luxor Temple, illuminated under the stars, with those towering columns and statues glowing. It was pure magic. The whole day reminded us why Egypt's ancient wonders still captivate everyone. Stick around as we share all the highlights of Luxor. If you're dreaming of Egypt, this is the day that sealed it for us. Let's dive in. This is part 5 of our Egypt adventure. If you missed the start of the journey, I've added the links below from part 1 in Cairo, where it all began. On day 7, we left the Red Sea vibes of Hurghada behind and headed to Luxor via minivan, which took around 4 hours with one stop along the way. Upon arriving in Luxor and stepping onto the Nile River cruise dock, we were immediately greeted by a stunning daytime view of Luxor Temple. It felt like a perfect preview, a chance to admire its grandeur in full daylight before experiencing its magical, illuminated version later that night. We began boarding our Nile River cruise, and something interesting caught our attention to reach our ship, the MS Royal Beau Rivage. We had to walk through several other riverboats lined up side by side. The orientation began almost the moment we stepped aboard, a gentle introduction before we were shown to our rooms. Our cabin was simple, but warm and welcoming, with thoughtful gifts waiting for us, a hat with a matching bag and a little box of chocolates. And because our boat was docked at the very end of the row, our window opened to a quiet, uninterrupted view of the Nile, shimmering in the afternoon light. Welcome to Karnak, the largest religious complex ever built by ancient hands. Known as the most select of places, dedicated to the supreme deity, Amun-Ra. This sprawling wonder in modern-day Luxor stands as a testament to over 2,000 years of power and architectural genius. To understand Karnak's importance, it helps to know how ancient Egypt was divided. Upper Egypt is the southern part of the country, the region of Luxor, Aswan, and the Nile Valley. Lower Egypt is the northern part, the Nile Delta leading to the Mediterranean. These two lands, Upper and Lower Egypt, were once separate kingdoms, unified around 3100 BC by legendary kings like Narmer, creating the foundation of pharaonic Egypt. Outside the gate are ram-headed sphinx, which represent Amun-Ra protecting the pharaoh. Karnak wasn't built by just one pharaoh. It was shaped by more than 30 rulers over nearly 2,000 years. Every king wanted to leave their mark here. That's why the complex feels endless. Before you even step into the great forecourt, this massive, unfinished pylon rises in front of you. 100 meters wide, Karnak's gateway to the sacred world of the gods. The Great Forecourt is the largest courtyard in all of Egypt, spanning nearly 2 acres. This was the public face of the temple, a vast gathering place where the common people could approach the majesty of the gods. To the right, we saw something rare, the mud brick ramps used by the ancient builders. These aren't ruins, they are the ancient scaffolding. Builders did not use cranes. Instead, as each coarse layer of stone was laid, they built a sloping ramp of mud bricks and rubble. Welcome to the Great Hypostyle Hall, the crown jewel of Karnak.
Prepare yourself. We are going inside the heart of Karnak, the most important place in Karnak. The whole pillars, 134 columns, one of the ancient seven wonders. Very, very colorful place. Why colorful? Why the colors still exist? I'm asking you this question. Sand. Professor. Because this temple was buried under the sand.
The Great Hypostyle Hall is a masterpiece of ancient Egypt. I knew it would be impressive, but this is on another level. These massive columns, the light, the scale, it's absolutely unreal. These 134 towering columns, carved with stories of pharaohs and gods, rise around you like a stone forest. It's even more breathtaking than I imagined. Standing here feels like walking through the memory of a civilization. Look to the center of the hall, where the shadows give way to light. These 12 massive pillars are the giants of Karnak. Rising nearly 80 feet into the air, they are capped with open bell-shaped capitals, modeled after the flowering papyrus of the Nile. Unlike the 122 smaller columns surrounding them, these 12 were designed to catch the sun. In the time of the pharaohs, the roof over the central aisle was raised, allowing light to pour through stone windows and illuminate the vibrant colors of the capitals. Every column tells a story. Pharaohs like Seti and Ramesses the Great carved their names, battles, and offerings to the god Amen. Feel the history under your fingers. These stones have stood for over 3,000 years. It was a sacred place where kings met the gods, where ceremonies filled the air with music and incense. It was unforgettable to stand here, even for a moment, walking the same paths the pharaohs once did. The Great Hypostyle Hall truly feels like one of the most extraordinary places on Earth. Leaving the heavy shadows of the Hypostyle Hall feels like emerging into a different world. As the sky opens up, you're immediately struck by these obelisks. Standing over 20 meters tall, they were meant to pierce the sky, connecting the earth to the sun god, Amun-Re. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that these were carved from a single piece of pink granite in Aswan and transported hundreds of miles. They aren't just monuments. They are ancient engineering miracles that have stood the test of 3,000 years. To really see Karnak, you have to look past the standing walls. Everywhere you look, there are fragments of a puzzle that archaeologists are still putting together today. This was more than a temple. It was a city for the gods that employed thousands of people, from bakers and weavers to the highest astronomers. Even in ruins, the sheer scale of the debris field tells a story of a civilization that didn't just want to build big, they wanted to build for the end of time. Beyond the stone, the sacred lake rests in eternal stillness. Here, the high priests would purify themselves in the dark hours before dawn, preparing for rituals that kept the cosmos in balance. Near the sacred lake, you'll find the famous scarab of Amenhotep III. It's a single, massive block of rose granite carved into the shape of a scarab beetle. Visitors walk around 7 times for luck, blessings, and wishes. It's a small moment, but one that connects modern travelers with ancient symbolism. So of course, we did our walk around too. At nightfall, we visited the Luxor Temple. Before we stepped through the gates of Luxor, we found this long row of human-headed sphinx that runs all the way to Karnak Temples. This was the site of the Opet Festival, ancient Egypt's version of a grand parade. Walking up to Luxor Temple at night is a whole different experience. Check out these massive statues of Ramesses II guarding the entrance of Luxor. They're nearly 14 meters tall. And that obelisk? It's been standing guard here since the 13th century BC. Notice that the right-hand side obelisk is empty because that obelisk was given to France in the 1830s. It's honestly hard to wrap your head around how big this place is until you're standing right at the feet of a pharaoh. Flanking the entrance, two colossal seated statues of Ramesses II, made of solid black granite, anchor the gateway to Luxor Temple. Each one was carved to project the pharaoh's power, the idealized face, the royal nen's headdress, the hands resting calmly on his knees. Even after 3,000 years, they sit here like eternal guardians of Thebes, reminding every visitor that this was once the domain of Egypt's most ambitious ruler. Leaving the giants behind, we step through the massive pylon and into the great court of Ramesses II. He actually built this at a slight angle to align with the avenue of sphinxes outside. And check this out. Tucked between these massive columns are even more statues of the king. There is even a mosque built right on top of the ruins. The Mosque of Abu Hagag is perched high on the temple walls and was buried in sand for centuries. Now we're moving deeper, leaving the court of Ramesses behind and entering the Grand Colonnade. These 14 massive columns were actually built by Amenhotep III, nearly a century before Ramesses the Great. These columns are massive at about 16 meters tall and shaped like open papyrus flowers, reaching up toward the stars. Emerging from the shadows of the Great Colonnade, we break out into the Sun Court. This was the heart of the temple built by Amenhotep III. There are 64 columns in this court alone, standing in 2 perfect rows on 3 sides. Notice how the style shifts here. The columns are more slender and elegant than the ones we just passed. These represent bundled papyrus stalks, a symbol of life and creation in ancient Egypt. In the 3rd century AD, Romans transformed this inner chamber into a chapel for the imperial cult. If you look closely at the peeling plaster, you can see the original Egyptian reliefs hiding underneath the Roman paint. Many see a resemblance to the Last Supper here, but these paintings actually depict Roman officials and the Emperor Diocletian. We enter the transition zone between the Roman world and the original Egyptian heart of the temple. You can see how the massive columns here feel more enclosed and intimate. This path leads us straight toward the sanctuary of Alexander the Great, where the Macedonian king literally carved his name into Egyptian history. Here he is, Alexander the Great. He didn't just rule as a foreigner. He wanted to be seen as a son of the gods. In this sanctuary, he replaced the original columns with this shrine and carved his own image into the walls, dressed exactly like a pharaoh. 2 temples, thousands of years, and one incredible journey. From the sun-drenched courtyards of Karnak to the hauntingly beautiful sanctuaries here at Luxor, we've walked the path of the pharaohs. Thanks for joining us on this walk through history.